It's a classic David and Goliath plot with a strange twist that could only happen in New Mexico. So bizarre that Hollywood probably would not even buy it.
But it's a true story, and Hollywood's right in the middle of it. Tonight, a Larry Barker investigation that stretches from Afghanistan to Chile.
I'm telling you, you're trespassing. And I'll go call the cops now.
This is kind of a biggie, don't you think? They built an Afghan village on some guy's land.
I think, you know, it's an interesting issue.
It was a shock. It was like, how in the hell did all this happen?
There's only one way to describe what's happened here in the Manzano Mountains. Bizarre.
It's just one of those bad situations for everyone.
This secluded landscape of juniper and pinon is at the heart of an astonishing bamboozle worthy of a star-studded Hollywood thriller. The cast of characters include a strong-willed New Mexico activist, film extras posing as Taliban fighters, box office movie stars, and property owner Patrick Elwell.
It's land that my grandfather owned and his father owned. It's been in the family probably over 80 years.
Patrick lives in Albuquerque and checks on his remote mountain property once a year. In May, he logged onto Google for a bird's eye view. He expected to see this. Instead, he saw a town.
There were curtains in the windows. It was well traveled. We could still see that parts of it were under construction, but nobody was around. And I said, there's no way that could be my property.
It happened when Patrick wasn't looking. A Hollywood movie company moved in for a 2-week extravaganza. They brought in 150 crew members, 20 semi-tractor trailers, 8 vans, 3 generators, and a mobile kitchen. And then they transformed this quiet New Mexico paradise into war-torn Afghanistan. They built a replica of an Afghani village and then bombarded it with simulated grenades and gunfire. There were explosions, helicopters, and firefights. It was all part of the star-studded action drama Lone Survivor. Now, Hollywood has been using New Mexico as a backdrop since the early days of Tom Mix, but this set was different. In fact, it may go down as one of the biggest blunders in the state's 100-year history of movie making. Nick Meniotis heads up the New Mexico Film Office.
I alerted the production that we may have a problem here.
It was a year ago. The movie makers built a 28-room Afghan village, brought in Hollywood actors, scores of extras, and shot a multi-million-dollar motion picture on Patrick Elwell's land. The problem? No one bothered asking Patrick Elwell. In fact, by the time Patrick found out a movie had been made on his property, the cast and crew were long gone. In New Mexico, Lone Survivor takes on a new reality. You see, these Hollywood actors are not just playing Navy SEALs, they're squatters, trespassers. How could this happen? The film company got duped.
Yes. The production thought they were dealing with an owner that actually turns out, I guess, is not. So there's the rub.
Jonathan Slater was Lone Survivor's location scout. Slater chose this spot near Chile because it looks a lot like Afghanistan. But one thing Slater didn't do is verify property ownership. A local named Juan Sanchez told Slater he controls all the property in this area. If you want to shoot a movie here, you deal with Juan. So Lone Survivor struck a deal. Now, in real life, Juan is chair of the New Mexico Land Grant Council and president of the Chile Land Grant. But as it relates to this property, Juan Sanchez is an imposter.
Was the land grant compensated for the production of Lone Survivor?
Yes, $30,000.
To understand what's happened here, you have to go back to 1841, when the 40,000-acre Chile land grant was created by the Mexican government. Through the years, much of the original land grant property was sold off. However, as Chile president, Juan Sanchez claims those sales were illegal, and as a result, the land grant does not recognize any private land ownership here.
It was fraud. Those individuals that were selling those properties within the grant had no right to do that. Anybody that has a deed within the Chile land grant
doesn't have the ownership of the land.
In Patrick Elwell's case, his ancestors were among the first settlers here. His great-grandfather farmed the land some 80 years ago. His grandparents deeded the property to Patrick in 1987.
This land where they built the movie set, who owns it?
I own it. The land grant doesn't own this land. It sits within the land grant, but this property is not the land grant's property.
Even though Mr. Elwell has a deed to the property, it would be your position he doesn't own it.
Correct. If he has a deed to the land from his grandfather, then his grandfather gave him a deed. As you know, anybody can give a deed for anything. I could give you a deed to the moon, you record it in the clerk's office, and that's going to be your piece of property.
Even though the issue of private property ownership within Chillicothe was settled by the New Mexico Supreme Court years ago, Sanchez remains defiant.
Do you respect the opinion of the New Mexico Supreme Court on that case?
No, because we feel it violated our rights.
Randy Audio is the Bernalillo County attorney.
But with this particular piece of property, I've not seen any evidence of any claims to ownership other than by Mr. Elwell.
Does the Chillicothe land grant have any ownership of this piece of property?
Not that I'm aware of.
Shortly after Elwell started asking questions, the Lone Survivor movie set disappeared. The only evidence today of the trespass are a few pieces of lumber and acres of bulldozed vegetation.
You can see they've taken down shrubs, trees. I mean, they just leveled it. It's just pretty sad. It really is that somebody from out of town would come in, do this, and have no respect for the property or the people who own it.
Patrick Elwell called the Lone Survivor production company about the trespass and talked to the executive in charge, Ron Lynch. Lynch told Patrick, buzz off. We called Lynch. He told us the company had no interest in resolving this issue, and he had no further comment.
The one discussion I had with a man in Connecticut felt that I was just trying to shake him down for money, and that basically for me to go fly a kite.
Does it appear to you that the movie company is interested in resolving this issue with Mr. Elwell?
Well, from my last correspondence, I don't think so.
It bothers me that they cleared my land of all the vegetation without my permission. It bothers me that somebody else can come along and say, I own this piece of property, pay me. It bothers me that nobody, state government, county government, will not stand up for the right landowner and say, wait a minute, something's been done wrong.
And Lone Survivor is not the only film production to contract with Juan Sanchez. In 2011, the Avengers shot 2 scenes on private property within the land grant.
They shot a scene of when Thor and Captain America and Iron Man were in a battle.
Moments after our interview with Patrick Elwell, Sanchez dropped by to order us off Chillicothe land grant property.
My property as a land grant is 10 miles that way, 10 miles that way, 6 miles that way, and 4 miles that way. That's my land. I do not see anywhere where it says that it's his land.
Go down to the county assessor. Go look at who's been paying the property tax on here for the last 80 years, okay? Go down there and it's been proven that this is my
There
piece
is
of
no
property.
proven.
The hell there isn't.
Show me a piece of paper that says.
Show me yours.
I will.
Lone Survivor is scheduled for theater release in January. Larry Barker, KRQE News 13.
Patrick Elwell has sent the film company an invoice for use of and damage to his property. That bill has yet to be paid.